set, but Alberta ain't ready to kneel just yet. They chose their king, their power was met, but we don't answer to Ottawa yet. No crown gave us what we've earned, just dirt and fire and lessons learned. Now the ground it shakes, the steel it groans, and Alberta walks alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. From the rigs to the rails, the crops to the code, we lit their streets, we bore their load. They laughed at pride, they mocked the West, but freedom don't die, it just waits for the test. The cowboys ride, the farmers rise, 5 million strong under open skies. No leash, no lie, no foreign throne. This land is steel and it stands alone. We ride.
Welcome. It's 7-Eleven Daily Summary with Bruce Scholl. I'm so excited to be here. What an extraordinary time to be alive. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I am just so excited about where we are in the world. Things are moving quickly. Daily, we are seeing things changing, and our world really is an extraordinary place to be. So thank you very much for joining me. I am coming to you from Calgary. As usual, it's Bruce Scholl. This is Unscrew the News. And we have some weather. And it's not climate change. I was just talking to my guest. It's not climate change. It's not, the earth is boiling. It's just summer, folks, and enjoy it while you've got it. It's a gorgeous day out here in southern Alberta. And I have two extraordinary guests. I'm excited about the opportunity to have these two wonderful guests. One is returning, and I have one brand new coming to join us, Dean Allison, the MP from Niagara West. He's joining us. And Shawn Buckley, constitutional lawyer and famed NCI host, as well as the nhppa.org. Wonderful to have both of these gentlemen here. Before I get started, though, I always, I like to talk about local businesses. I love to support local businesses. And one of them that I do suggest people, and I'm not going to be your investment advisor, but I do suggest getting gold and silver to protect your family's wealth. Get your, nuggetstacker.com is the website. You can get gold and silver. They also have a subscription. I certainly suggest this. Get it, forget it, and it's just going to build up your equity. You're going to have that safe be overflowing with gold and silver very shortly. But give them a call, 1-866-644-2121, nuggetstacker.com. We're going to get into this here right away. We're going to unscrew some news. I've got, like I said, two fantastic guests, but we're going to get started here right away. Coming to you from the heart of the battle-ready nation of Alberta, we bring you truth and optimism, and our goal is to break free from the media and the globalist mind control. It is July 15th, 2026. This is episode number 292. I have MP Dean Allison and Shawn Buckley, and this is just called Allison Inquiry, September 8th to 11th. We're really looking forward to this coming up in the fall. And I'm just going to give the website right away here. So it's AllisonInquiry.com. You can look it up. I will have it in the show notes here. But I want to bring on our guests. My first guests that I'm obviously going to bring on both of them here, but I've got MP Dean Allison, who was elected in 2004 in Niagara West. He's from London, Ontario, and he's in my books, he's one of the greatest MPs and one of the greatest politicians already. But I just met him here tonight, so we'll get into it, and we'll find out a little bit more about what Dean is all about. And I've got Shawn Buckley, the constitutional lawyer, and like I said, famed for the National Citizens Inquiry and the NHPPA.org. I'm excited to have both of these gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, Bruce, a pleasure.
It's always great having you, Shawn. Thank you so much for helping to arrange this. And Mr. Allison, it is a pleasure to meet you and to have you here explaining this very momentous occasion that's coming up. Obviously, you know, I get chills actually when I'm thinking about this, but it's been a number of years that Canadians have been looking for some accountability or for some opportunity to be heard. And this is just an extraordinary opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. Do you want to just explain to the audience a little bit about how it happened, how it came about, if you don't mind?
Sure. So, you know, during COVID, I had lots of people reaching out to my office about a variety of things. You know, we had small business people losing their businesses, their restaurants. We had kids that, you know, weren't able to attend school and got dropped through the cracks. And when the vaccine came out and lockdowns, all the insane things that went on during that period of time, I invariably had people calling my office to say, like, Dean, you know what, I'm you know, I don't feel comfortable taking the vax because, quite frankly, I've got I've got issues. I've had allergic reactions to other vaccines. 55, 60-year-old truck drivers saying, like, Dean, like, I have to put food on the table. And so I was exposed pretty quick about business people and individuals that were suffering in ways that, quite frankly, most people didn't have to suffer. We were particularly locked down in Ontario. And so right away, the whole COVID experience really affected people in a negative way. So let's just fast forward a bit. I've talked to people all the time. That's what MPs do. We listen to what people have to say, and we help them access government programs, right? Those are two of the main jobs that we do. And so over the course of time, people had reached out to me because of some of the stands I'd taken during COVID and private members' bills I'd brought forward, et cetera. And the bottom line is that, people were telling me that they were injured, and I was getting emails, phone calls, text, the list goes on. And so for a long period of time, this always really bothered me that we didn't have any type of recap. We didn't have any type of postmortem on how COVID was handled. And I thought, you know what, in the back of my mind for the last couple of years, I've been thinking, I really want to do something to hear people's concerns. I really think that people's voices should be aired. We need to hear what they have to say. And so it has been gnawing at me for some time. And then I got a chance to meet Shawn and Teresa, who came into my office talking about natural health products and a private member's bill that Shawn was supportive of, and traveling across the country. And through a mutual friend of ours, they put us in touch. And we got a chance last October to meet in my office to talk about natural health products. And I was aware that Shawn had been involved in the NCI. I'd seen some of his things online. And so I just told him sort of what my heart was in terms of what I was thinking, and, just throwing out the conversation starter to say, man, it would be great if some way we could have a public discussion about this, because these are things that MPs have been hearing privately for some time. I felt that it needed and it deserved a chance to be brought out into the open and discussed publicly.
Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Shawn, do you want to just tell your side of this story and how this came about? Obviously, you've had now 2 press conferences. We had one just on July 9th that we were restreaming here, and some of my audience had seen that. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how this came about? Just fill in the gaps in regard to meeting Dean, MP Allison, and how this process worked.
Yeah, I might take a little bit of a different focus. So, I mean, because Dean's done a pretty good job of outlining. You know, when you meet people, also you kind of get a feel for who they are, and both Teresa and I really felt like we resonated, and so with Dean, and so when we followed up a couple of months after to just say, okay, do you want to do this? Well, also you have to understand things. First of all, Dean has to agree. He has to know, what this is about. And the idea is to have MPs and senators come and listen to vaccine injured persons. So, Dean had said, well, go talk to other MPs, and any MP that you can, to see if they would be willing to sit at the table with me and listen to vaccine injured persons. Now, Bruce, that process led me to understand things a little differently. And so, you watch the NCI, you've had a whole bunch of guests on. We live in a bubble, like I'll call it the freedom group world. Like we live in a bubble. And so, right down to, PCR tests, people dying with COVID as opposed to of COVID, all you name the topic, we all know it. And we just assume that other people live in our world and other people see things the way we see things. And, it was a wake-up call for me. So first of all, there's a large body of people out there that are not in our bubble. And, a lot of them watch the mainstream media, and, they have beliefs that are very reasonable based on what they understand, and they act like you or I would act if we understood this. And so, the mainstream media puts the belief out there that these COVID-19 vaccines saved a lot of lives. I mean, I think they throw the figure of like 3 million people saved type thing. Well, if you don't have any reason to disbelieve that, you believe it. And, there's the mainstream media, everyone's aware that things have changed health-wise. Like all of us, regardless of what we believe the cause is, we've come to understand that, people have died, people are sick, maybe we're sick, and in new ways. Well, the mainstream media narrative is that's long COVID. Okay, which makes, perfect sense. And also, if you accept that the vaccine saved like 3 million people, but, we're having to wrestle with all this sickness caused by long COVID, then, the third thing that I've learned is, so this belief that actually doing anything that would create vaccine hesitancy is dangerous is very logical. Now, you and I, in the freedom bubble, would go, that's craziness that they believe that. Well, okay, but first of all, let's accept that they're different worlds. And let's also accept that it's hard to change people's minds. Like if, let's say there was information coming out now to show that, these vaccines really weren't causing a whole bunch of injuries, that actually it's long COVID. Everyone in your audience, myself included, would be going, I'm not sure I'm really ready to accept that. And we would have to go through a process of, digesting that type of information, examining it, before we would be willing to change our minds. Okay, now where am I going with this? So when I was meeting with MPs to see if some of them would be willing to sit as, on the panel to listen to COVID injured persons or vaccine injured persons, I came to understand that Dean Allison is a rare MP. He understands that there's a problem, but the majority of MPs don't see it that way at all. And so getting them to the table is interesting because, I think that some of them, just because of the world they live in, quite reasonably are concerned about, promoting vaccine hesitancy. And Dean can correct me on this one. And I think also we still live in a world, even though this is 5 years ago, that some would view it as risky to step out. And let me just even put this in context. So I'm on a podcast yesterday with a medical doctor, and I asked, is it possible for a medical doctor today in July 2025 in Canada to step out and say, you know, these COVID-19 vaccines are dangerous, they cause a whole bunch of harm, we should look into that? And the medical doctor thought, no, that person would get professionally disciplined and may lose his or her license to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 5 years later.
Yeah.
So is it a surprise that the medical system will not recognize vaccine injury? Is it a surprise that the mainstream media is keeping the narrative going? Is it a surprise that MPs would be reluctant to engage in this, you know, public process? No, we have to. And we have to do this. And likely the safest way to start this dialogue is to just have Canadians share their experiences.
Right. Well, sorry, are you, were you finished what you were saying there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think that's the greatest way. Obviously, now, Dean, perhaps just one more question in regard to this process. So, you obviously had to weigh out, you know, the pros and cons for taking this forward, and obviously it's been 5 years. You know, obviously you're the only one, it seems like, that's willing to do this. Were you concerned? Did you have family members that said to you, "Don't do this, Dean. It's you know, this is not going to be good for you"? Did you face that sort of backlash, or are you still facing it today?
No, I mean, my family is fairly supportive of what I do, and you know, at the end of the day, I mean, the people are going to caution you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why are you talking about stuff that no one else is talking about? Like I
Right.
said, I had private members bills around, you know, allowing people to travel or not lose their job because they would choose not to take the vaccine. So I'm already out there on the record talking about some of these things. So I don't think anyone's surprised that know me that I've been, you know, prepared to raise some of these issues. I think the challenge is always, you know, how do you explain to people what you're trying to do? I mean, I love to see an inquiry, you know, let's look at, you know, lockdowns, all that stuff. We're not getting that.
Yeah.
Right. So what is it that I do every day? I listen to people every single day, and I help them fight for government programs that they're entitled to. So this is a simple equation for me that says, you know, at the end of the day, what I want to do, I want to listen to people publicly discuss their stories, and then I want to hear their challenges for trying to get into the vaccine injury support program, and you know, have they been able to get any money, and what have they been able to do, and how has the system treated them, and then I want to make that better. So really, those are the two main things that I really believe that we're trying to do. And could we do so much more? Well, maybe more needs to be done, but that's not on the table at this point in time. Really what we want to do is hear people's stories, let people know that they're not alone, give people permission to publicly have conversations about this. And we know that COVID, everything, not just the vaccine, but COVID in general, divided families, divided communities, divided churches. The list goes on and on. So there are still people divided today on a wide range of these things. And what Shawn just said, I could talk to somebody who had myocarditis. As a matter of fact, I know there's a friend of one of my kids, and she had myocarditis, and the family was told that it was COVID. And we know that no 19-year-old has open heart surgery.
Right.
Certainly I don't ever remember it happening prior to that point in time. So the challenge is really trying to get people up to speed. Like Shawn said, it's really trying to educate people that this has gone on. And quite frankly, I was just sickened with the way people have been treated. It's like there's some kind of outcast, or they have leprosy, or somehow it's not their fault. People were asked to get the vaccine for a variety of reasons. Some people did it willingly. Some people did it with a gun to their head. You think about that for 1 second. How many people got the vaccine because they said, if you don't do it, you can't work, you can't play in sports, you can't go to school, choose whatever it is. And so people did what they felt they were required to do in order for them to be able to participate in society back in COVID years. And then when they did it, and through no fault of their own, there was reactions and from scale of 1 to 100, like very tragic. And then the government says, well, we don't even want to talk about it.
Right.
We don't want to hear about it. And,
Right.
and by the way, we're going to make sure that it's not even cool to talk about it. We're going to sort of, try and censor people that want to talk about these things. So these are all the things that have been gnawing at me for quite some time. And I was really looking for the perfect time. There's no perfect time.
Right.
But I think that, there's certainly more of a willingness today to have these conversations than there was even a couple of years ago, as we realize that some of these things have not gone away. They're only intensifying.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the how COVID divided people. And I just before I play this clip, I want to say that we are behind, as far as Canada and having this inquiry, and maybe and hopefully we have other ones. But I mean, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, Netherlands, Peru, UK, US, all of these countries have had, Scotland is in there as well, have had inquiries into, some of these effects. And gentlemen, I just want to talk about I want to bring up a clip that talks about the divide of people, just to remind people. So stand by here and don't get triggered. Don't get triggered when you see this thing, though. It triggers me, though.
You to say, get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk. We need to be strong in the decisions we're taking going forward, and we need to put people first, which we have always done.
Wow, that's hypocritical, hey?
Absolutely. Listen, I just reposted that exact clip in the last couple of days and said to people, never forget what this guy did to us in terms of how people were divided. Like I said, families, communities, churches, neighbors, the list goes on and on.
Yeah. A lot of harm, a lot of hurt. And I have talked about the last couple of days when I've been posting about our event for today and the event coming up in September. But we have the chance to start to heal. I mean, I guess there's been other healing in this process, but it really, speaking to you specifically, Shawn, I mean, the NCI was definitely a part of that. It allowed people, an outlet. And it also allowed some of us, and Dean, I haven't told you the story, but I started this process. I started Unscrew the News after watching Shawn and, those hundreds of people, pouring their heart out. And I sat there and listened to it for a whole day thinking that it was just a waste of time, a waste of breath. And after I, spent a good portion of the day crying in my garage, listening to the stories, I realized that I had to do more, and I had to capture the stories. I had to capture more stories of people and what they went through, whatever it was. It wasn't necessarily COVID, but, stories of that people went through. Anyway, that was my beginning. That was the origin story of Unscrew the News and how I got to this point. So anyway, I have another question. We've got a bit of an echo here. I think I don't know where that's coming from. I wanted to ask you. I guess this is the hard question, and I asked this, and thankfully Shawn asked it during the press conference, and I don't know if you can expand on it at all, but I think everybody wants to know, like, what has kept us from getting to this point? And I think you already touched on it, but is there anything else that you can sort of help us to understand, coming from a government's perspective, why they haven't wanted to, or they haven't wanted to allow people to actually, even express their hurt and their there's people that have passed away, that have died from this. And it's been hurtful just getting to this point. Can you fill in any of those blanks?
Well, I mean, I feel that things changed after COVID, right? And I think, it's BC, before COVID and after COVID. I think we have got more of a censorship state now. I feel like there's been at least a dozen pieces of legislation that have been introduced in various parliaments. We've had two or three parliaments since then, that we've actually, at one point in time, every time, it's whether there's no news being allowed to happen on Facebook, whether it's controlling logarithms when it comes to YouTube and stuff there's more and more of a censorship state. So it's not enough that say you can't talk about this topic, but if you, Bruce, if you're the guy that no one can talk to, you've been canceled, even talking to you becomes problematic. And so I think we've regressed since COVID. And I think this has been happening all along. Mm-hmm. And we need to push back on that. We got to push back on the fact that we shouldn't be censored, that we should be able to talk about difficult conversations. And that's, really what we're trying to do here. We're trying to talk about a very difficult conversation that, quite frankly, deserves, at the very least, having people tell their stories. It deserves so much more, but what's in our control and what we can do and what I can do right now, at the very least, is to hear some of these stories.
Amen to that. Gentlemen, Shawn, I'm looking to you for this next one. And Dean, if you want to share as well. Do either of you have a short story that you might want to share to whet the appetite as far as what we can expect in September?
Oh, that's a good question. So, yeah, I have one that comes to mind. So now I think it's 3 or 4 weeks ago, we're having a team meeting. So a Zoom meeting, and we've got everyone on the team there because it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of moving pieces to set this up. And there were a couple of volunteers on the call that are tasked with reading all the applications from people that want to be witnesses. And I asked these two people, so how are you doing? Simple question. And one of them just burst into tears and wept for the rest of the call in front of the rest of us. And the reason for that is just simply that every one of these applications is heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. There's just simply no other way to describe it. And every single person that is brave enough to watch 4 days in September, and you have to, it will change your life. You will not be the same. It'll be like you've gone through a door and you look behind you and you go, did that door just lock? Because you're not going back. Mm-hmm. And you're not going back in a positive way, because there's nothing threatening about listening to people share their stories, but you will be changed. You will be blessed by this experience, and you'll be freed by this experience. I'm just, people, what do you want? I just want us to be able to be honest again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question to you, Dean. What are your hopes, I guess, for the process? I know that we want to hear the stories, but is there anything else that you hope to come out of that?
Yeah, I really hope that we could create the dialogue that continues after this. I look at where we're at in terms of, let's even talk about the vaccine injury program. Mm-hmm. Global News did a great piece last year. They spent 4 or 5 months doing this investigation. I always tell the story to give context. According to Health Canada's records, there's 60,000 people that have been injured. You and I know it's more than that, because of a lot of people don't actually know they're injured, or is the other case, doctors refuse to acknowledge that people are actually injured. So if you take the 60,000, which is what public health, what Canada recognizes as people being injured, 11,000 of those people that are seriously injured, 3,500 people that applied to the program, 3,000 they accepted, and they paid out a measly 252 people. Think about that. On the numbers of 60,000, that is less than 0.4 of a percentage point. That's less than half a percentage point. That is absolutely asinine. That is unacceptable. And what I hope happens as a result of these conversations is that we get the government to say, you know what, we woefully underfunded the first program. And quite frankly, the amount of, we found out, Global News also pointed out that over 2/3, $55 million, 35 was spent on overhead. Think about that.
Wow.
People are injured. They're getting blocked at every step along the way. They're trying to apply to a program where they get new case managers. Case managers are dropped. They ask for information over and over again. That is completely unacceptable to me. As a matter of fact, it makes me angry, as a matter of fact. And so I'm hoping that we'll see changes as a result of that. I hope that we see people talking about it more. I know for a fact MPs, senators, former MPs, and family members have been injured. Most of those people don't want to talk about it. And I'm not naming names because health is a personal thing and people need to. What I'm hoping is the result of us and people, brave souls, sharing their stories, brave people sharing their stories, that we can get more people to talk about this over time and realize that they're not alone. You know, one of the things that COVID did was isolate us all, right? You imagine in Toronto or any major city, let's go Toronto because, you know, we had particularly stupid lockdown rules. You had single mothers living in apartments at 500 square feet that weren't allowed to take their kids, you know, out to the park. So think about the isolation that happened. And how has that isolation changed now? If we are not allowed to talk about these things, if people don't realize, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I invited Shawn when he first came for one of the press conferences to have dinner with some MPs. And we were having conversations with people that did not even understand that people maybe have been injured. And they were saying, after the conversations we were having, some were saying, you know what, maybe I had actually been injured as well. Right. And once again, severity changed, right? It ranged from like major headaches to death and everything in between. And so really even the possibility that people may have been injured has never entered people's thinking. So two things I want us to be able to go forward and give people permission to publicly, without scorn, without feeling like they're ostracized or they did something wrong, be able to talk about their situation. And then I want, because the government has admitted they've injured people through their program, that, I mean, they can call us whatever they want. At the end of the day, people that were injured took the vaccine, so they're not anti-vaxxers. That's not the case.
That's right.
And people that did that because they needed or wanted or had to participate in society back then. And so it is the government's responsibility who hoist that upon them to now make sure they take care of those people. And we need to fight for that. And I hope that there is an awakening of people to realize, you know what, that is true. And we need to make sure that we are taken care of as a result of nothing we did on our own, but we did what was expected of us.
Wow. That is a great outlook, and I look forward to that as well. Shawn, so we talked about this just before we started to record. Obviously, you've now put the website out there. We've got AllisonInquiry.com. That also goes to what was the alternative? It was COVID.
Yeah, well, so the trick here is that this is not a government inquiry. In fact, you know, we're all very confident that the government does not want this to go ahead, and Dean has been personally attacked on his social media by, you know, some Liberal MPs. So, and of course they don't want it to go ahead because this could lead to some uncomfortable conversations, but we have to have them. We have to have them, and we will have them. So, so it's not government. And it's not a conservative party. I mean, it's somewhat ironic now because, you know, Dean hasn't suffered any repercussions from the party, but he's a conservative MP. And he didn't know how the Conservative Party would react. There was the possibility that he could be, after 22 years sitting as a Conservative MP, that he could be excluded from caucus. Now, thankfully, he wasn't. Pierre Poilievre, you know, as Dean's related to me, has said, no, you're free to do this. This is okay for you to do, and other Conservative MPs are absolutely free to participate if they choose. So we're very thankful for that. So when it's not government and it's not a party, it's just, you know, our small little band here, we need to raise funds to pay for this. So we've incorporated what's called COVID Testimony Association. It's a nonprofit. And so that's the web address. But if you put in Allison Inquiry, it'll just take you there. So it's easier for people to remember Allison Inquiry. But, you know, we want every vaccine injured person that testifies to be in person. And, you know, we're hoping to be able to fit in maybe up to 40 of them. We only have 4 days of testimony. Well, we have to fly them and we have to house them, and we've got AV costs and we've got, website costs and the like. It's all got to be done by Canadians supporting. So I certainly invite everyone. We're a long way. As we're advising some witnesses, we're selecting you. I'm in the uncomfortable situation where I have to ask, we're planning on paying your way, but if we can't, is it still possible for you to attend? So we're certainly calling on people to step up and help us and support this. This is a conversation we need to have. These are stories we need to hear. And the political reality in Canada is it's up to the citizens to do it. But I think that's a good lesson. I think the lesson is we get the type of country that we participate in. And I so firmly believe that, we're going to see a turnaround in Canada. I think that we're going to be the envy of the world, and that things look bright because we're taking an interest now as citizens. And, and we remember the way it was, and we want it better. I think Canadians are getting tired of thinking that every generation now needs to be poorer and we need to have less rights and less freedoms and more censorship. No, we don't. And the destiny for this country is bright. And so I'm just very thankful, with what's happening and the direction we're going.
Well, I think that I have to say thank you to you. And I already mentioned the NCI, but I think that COVID woke up a lot of people to the fact that we actually need to participate in this in government. Government is us. I mean, government should be us, right? And Dean, you are our representative, and that we need to participate as opposed to be on the couch and letting somebody else do this. I think that that's one of the lessons that I've learned, and I know a lot of people around me have also learned, is that we need to participate. Anyway, what I'm accentuating is that we also need to be donating to this cause, because this is very vital. It's important, and we as Canadians, if we see that this is important, we need to make sure that we're funding it as well. So get out there and donate. I've got the website open here. You can see, just going through here, how to make a donation, and please do what you can. And one of the other things I wanted to ask you, Shawn, while we're talking about this was, oops, excuse me, music playing here, was since you got the website up, since we've done a couple press conferences, how many people, or do you mind telling us how many people have signed up so far? Because that's obviously encouraging.
No, I don't mind speaking about that at all. So, right, I haven't checked recently, but I believe we're between 700 and 800 people that have applied, and wow. I hope that you understand, Bruce, that a lot of vaccine injured are reluctant to apply.
Of course they are.
So on the one hand, they want to tell their story,
yeah.
But we've learned this is an incredibly fragile group. So, for example, we've got on the website a pretty simple form for you to apply to interact with us, but that form is not sufficient at all for us to prepare you as a witness or even to document your story, because within a couple of days we were over 500 people, and we realized, okay, we've only got 4 days. I mean, even if we limit each witness's time, we're only going to be able to get a small fraction of those that are expressing interest. So why don't we ask if we can include their written forms as part of the record? Well, you fill in the first form. If our system works, and apparently there's some glitches, we have to resend out some Form 2s. You get this second form, a link to the second form. And it actually caused a lot of distress, which is interesting, but let's describe the distress. So these vaccine injured persons, I mean, many of them are like in 24-hour-a-day pain and discomfort. Some are paralyzed, like their entire lives are ruined. Well, we're in the 5th year.
Yes.
And so aside from just the physical suffering, I mean, you get mentally worn down, you get spiritually worn down. And then we're also learning, I mean, some of them have been so mistreated by the medical system. I mean, you watched Michelle Wharton speak at our second press conference. She had to fundraise. She has all these cystic masses all over her body, and one in her head, within her skull, was compressing her brain. She had to actually fundraise to get brain surgery, and she didn't share. But her neurologist wants her to get a specific treatment, but the healthcare system in BC doesn't allow that treatment for vaccine injury. It's only allowed for a certain set of conditions.
Wow.
And this is repeated over and over and over again. So these people are suffering terribly. The medical system, remember, doctors aren't allowed to step out and admit this yet. So the medical system is gaslighting them. And I get there's doctors out there that privately are doing what they're supposed to do, and thank you. But I'm just talking as a group. A lot of them are reporting to us real mistreatment. So much so that even filling out the form, which is a medical type form, like describe this, describe that, what treatments have you taken, that is traumatizing them. The idea of having a volunteer doctor interview them just to verify that it's reasonable to conclude that this is a vaccine injury is terrifying them.
Sure.
And that in itself is part of this story. So, that's only going to be partially documented. But this already needs to be part of the discussion, that we have a sizable number of Canadians that now feel completely alienated from the rest of us, completely abandoned by the rest of us, and are so beaten down and shell-shocked by how they've been treated that actually filling out a form is traumatic. And as a Canadian, I can tell you that that's not where we need to be. I'm absolutely ashamed of how we've treated this person, and that there has to be even any controversy about us doing this.
Right.
And that we don't have MPs lining up listening. There's only 30 seats for MPs each day. Like, what are you talking about? We need a bigger room, fellows, because we're all going to be there. All 340 of us, or 341, however number there is.
338.
No, they added some seats.
Oh, they did.
I think it's 340 now. Okay. So what's going on here? And I'm just, I have so much respect for MP Dean Allison that he's decided, I just have to do this. I have to listen, and I have to give my fellow MPs and senators an opportunity to listen. So we're calling, Bruce, on people to ask their MP and to ask the senators for their province to attend. And on the website, there's instructions on how to do it. There's suggestions, hopefully, that you'd be willing to go and meet in person or telephone. But even if you're not willing to do that, here's some letters that you can send. So, and then if you're injured, please apply. If you know somebody who's died, apply on their behalf. If there's somebody injured that hasn't applied, and they're not willing to, ask for their permission. Don't apply for anyone without their permission, but ask for their permission. And if they haven't applied, or they've applied and they're struggling with the form, volunteer to help. So, just let's step up and help people participate in this process.
Shawn, so obviously there's a lot of people that have said that they want to be a part of this. And I want to encourage as many people as possible. Is there a limit to how many people that you can take, or how many people you can hear? Obviously we want to encourage as many as possible. We want to encourage every one of them to reach out to you and to be participatory. But is there obviously some sort of a barrier as far as how many we can take, or what does that look like?
Think about it. If we were this, we've, first of all, because we're going to be in a parliamentary committee room with their staff running the room, there's time limits. So we're going to start at 8:30, but we have to finish around 5 each day. And the reality is we're going to have to take a lunch break. So even if we were limiting witnesses to, half an hour each or something, there's only so many we can fit in.
Yeah.
But as far as a written record, there's not a limit there. As long as people will consent to us including that as part of a written record. But, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be, because already we've come to understand that there's a lot of people out there that that can't fill in the form, or, you know, that are afraid of engaging with us because they just feel so browbeaten and however this unfolds, I just hope that we learn what's going on, and some way or another we all collectively get a feel for what we've done, because we've done this. This is the problem, is this group hasn't been marginalized. This group hasn't been gaslit. This group hasn't been mistreated without our acquiescence. Because the reality is some of us are medical professionals that are afraid to speak up, and others of us haven't demanded this conversation sooner. So I really do pray that God's going to use this to shine light, but we're all going to have to step up and put pressure on MPs and senators, and put pressure on the mainstream media, and demand that these people are treated better. It's up to us. You know, we participated. They could not have done the lockdowns. They couldn't have, you know, excluded people from restaurants and all of that without us participating. So we all participated in what happened. We all participated in the pressure, regardless. And, you know, we participated because we're human beings and we're very predictable, and we'll act in predictable ways based on what we believe. And that's okay. Let's cut each other some slack. Let's come together and listen to stories from all sides. This is going to focus on the injured, but we all need to be talking about our experience, our journey, and come together again and be willing to listen and be willing to understand that, you know, we had different perspectives, and that's okay. So it's time for us to heal. It's time for Canada to become strong again, because the reality is the rest of the world's going to need us to be a place of refuge in the land of freedom. And that's our responsibility, and it starts now.
All right. Another question that I have is, will this be broadcast? I mean, I know I'll be doing what I can through my channel, but is it going to be on CPAC? Is that going to be broadcast out to the world? Do you expect that other media outlets, some of the mainstream, not so truthful media will be there as well, or what are your thoughts?
And, you know, my thoughts are, first of all, I don't want to second guess anything. Global ran a really nice story, actually a fair story, and CTV has, you know, mentioned the inquiry a couple of times in connection to, you know, a theme about Poilievre losing control of his cabinet, but they weren't slamming the idea of having an inquiry. And you know, the reality is the media has to engage in this conversation also. Excuse me. So let's not rule that out, but definitely the alternative media will be there. We're hoping that CPAC will stream it. It will be streamed to the Allison Inquiry and on all of those channels. And we'll be inviting everyone. So if we're going to, you know, all of the podcasters, everyone out there, we actually want to assemble all of them. They can apply to us. So just email us at info@allisoninquiry.com. Apply to be able to attend. You know, for most official committee room events, you have to be accredited media to get in. But on this event, you know, because MP Dean Allison can give you permission, then, you know, you can apply to attend. So we're inviting everyone.
Excellent. So I'm just playing that so people can see that. One of the other questions I have. Okay, so this is a question for both of you, and we're nearing sort of our end of show time. But for both of you, and maybe MP Dean Allison, maybe you can take this question first. All right, it's September 12th, 9 a.m., and you've woken up in Ottawa. Now what?
Well, now I hope the conversation continues. I hope the government understands that there's more people injured than they realize. I hope they understand that the program that they set up to help those that were injured is woefully underfunded and poorly managed. I hope they wake up and realize that there more needs to be done to deal with people that have actually suffered injuries and suffered from taking the vaccine. So, and then I hope the conversation continues. Like I say,
Right.
it's we're hoping. I think Shawn said this, and I know I've said it. We've said it many times. It's like we want to give people permission to publicly discuss their injuries and have conversations, and we hope that conversation continues long after our inquiry is done.
Okay. And now, Shawn, it's September 12th. 9 a.m. You're going to wake up in Ottawa after this 4-day inquiry. Now what for you?
Well, I actually hope I wake up, Bruce, and say to myself, the entire nation got together in unity and watched this inquiry, and that it was streamed everywhere, and on social media people were coming together, not in a hateful way,
Right,
but just respectfully and with love, starting to share their different experiences. My dream is that the conversation will already be happening, because the conversation isn't for us in a small committee room. The conversation is for the nation. It's for everyone to, once again, in a loving and respectful way, be free to speak with people that disagree and have a conversation. That's what I hope.
that sounds like a sorry, I'm playing this video again. I just wanted to bring this up. All right, gentlemen, this has been fantastic. I think this has been very eye-opening for hopefully a lot of people. I brought the website back up. Is there anything else that you want to touch on in regard to the website, in regard to the inquiry coming up in September? Anything that I've missed that you want to touch on, either of you?
Yeah, I just add again, as Shawn has said, this is being run by volunteers. They're not being paid for it. They're taking up their time. We've got to raise funds in order to get people there. We want people in person to tell their stories. And so, we'd appreciate if you would go, as you mentioned before, to the Allison Inquiry and to the donate and help that. Once again, the volunteers aren't getting paid for any of these things. That's their time. Shawn's got to step away from his business, and all the volunteers that help out on other time. So we just hope that people will be able to help fund this so that we can be able to tell people's stories properly the way they deserve to be told.
Amen. That sounds like a great, I guess, forward motion is really to put it back to Canadians, and we need to step up. And we need to participate and really sign up. If you have the opportunity, if you have a little inkling that you want to participate and share your story, you have to do it. You have to be there. It really will be life-changing, like Shawn said. Shawn, anything else you want to add?
Well, no, Bruce, just really thankful that you're having us on, and really thankful that the conversation has already begun. Before we held the press conference on June 4th to announce this, nobody was talking about COVID-19 vaccine injuries. Nobody. So not in the mainstream, not in the freedom community. Everyone had moved on to different topics, and yet, the people that are injured, they can't move on. And, and some of them are dying, and some of them are suffering, and we're losing those stories. So I'm just thankful, actually, that, regardless of whether people are supportive or not supportive, that the conversation's already begun. And that's how this starts. And so thankful for your podcast, and thankful for your listeners, and thankful for Dean to step up and have the courage to do this. And just look forward to participating with everyone starting on September 8th.
Amen to that. MP Dean Allison, I really appreciate you being here and stepping up. This is, I think, a real shot in the arm. And I said this before, but this feels like, we're in the approach to healing Canadians through this process, because it really has affected so many of us. As we mentioned, whatever side that you were on, the dividing of families, the dividing of friends and family has been so hurtful, and it really has affected so many of us. So I do appreciate, and with God's help, that we're going to be able to help a lot of people to I guess find some healing. I'm just going to share a couple other comments, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much, everybody, for commenting. And let me see here. I'll look at these, some great comments. Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for participating, everybody, for your comments. Thanks for being here. MP Dean Allison and Shawn Buckley, thank you so much for being here and doing what you're doing, because you guys, there is a lot of work. And again, back out to the Canadians, you have to participate. These are two wonderful, hardworking warriors that are stepping up for you, but they need support. And the whole inquiry needs your support, whether you're helping out, maybe you're billeting somebody, maybe you're donating, whatever it is, reach out to them and see if there's something that you can do to help out for this event coming up September 8th to 11th in 2026 in Ottawa. We're really looking forward to the event. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. God bless you both.
Thanks, Bruce.
God bless you, Bruce. And you just reminded me of something, is we do have a volunteer team in Ottawa that is looking for families that would billet some of these vaccine injured, because for some of them, hotels would not be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So just contact us through the email info@allisoninquiry.com if you're in the Ottawa area and can help with that.
So you should be able to find any of these contacts, emails, through the AllisonInquiry.com website, or it's also under covidtestimony.com. And I'll make sure to have the links on this for any of the platforms that I'm on tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you. Stick around if you don't mind. We'll just have a 10-15 second catch up. But I always like to say, let's stay sane together. Keep your head on a swivel. This is Bruce, and I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.